Okay, good afternoon to all of you. Welcome to our MAT181 class, Research in Mathematics. I am Dr. Marin, the professor, and we welcome you to this session. Yeah, may saglit na mga kapatid. Okay, welcome once again mga kapatid. We have some technical issues. Dali. Ayaw niya. Ito na lang. Ayaw niyang umano. May his talaga. Ay, galing yung his na yun. Okay, welcome once again to our our course in MAT181, Research in Mathematics. This is under LD Woosley Bethany Colleges. We would like to welcome everyone. Po, salamat po sa may his talaga. Aha. Teka guys, talagang may hardware problem tayo. Wait lang po. Sound check. Welcome once again mga kapatid sa ating broadcast. May konti lang ang problema sa aking Nevertheless, we will continue. So we thank the Lord for this opportunity. Okay, let's open the word of prayer. Father in heaven, we thank you for this day. Thank you for the time that we could spend in this lecture in research in mathematics. I pray, Lord, for your guidance. Even there are some hardware and software issues we have been encountering, even the connectivity. Lord, I pray that by your grace that we will push through on this, that we will achieve the objectives for this session. I pray for your mercy and grace throughout this session. This is our prayer in Christ's name. Amen. Okay, salamat po. Tayo magpapatuloy. We have one connection issue naman. Parang sumisirit, no? Hindi ko maintindihan kung ano eh. Okay, saglit lang mga kapatid, saglit lang. Okay, as part of our objective in this research in mathematics is we will be considering some preliminary aspects of fundamental of research. Would like to acknowledge one top chat from our YouTube channel. Hindi ko pa siya marinig kasi wala akong monitor ngayon, no? Okay, so we'll look at some of the fundamental aspects here. Perhaps we could look some definition. As a student, we may define research. Secondly, explain the importance of research. And then we could also differentiate the goals and purposes of research. Yan po ang mga fundamental aspect natin. So we are into basic concepts, no? This is under the section basic concepts. So I'm still waiting for AJ if we could as part of his requirement is to compile thesis, undergraduate and research outputs, no? For familiarization. So I hope next week, AJ, your material will be ready while we are learning on these concepts. No? So basic concept, and then we have after the purposes and objective differentiating, we have to explain the characteristic. What are the characteristics of educational research? Okay, the number 5 is to have some ethical considerations. So this is far more important, particularly on in conducting a study. So these are, so if AJ will be here, I'll be asking some questions here. Our student may is doing something as of the moment, which is important as well. So we will just continue our live stream. That's why I'm opening this from our Facebook, Baptist Ministerial Seminary, and CBC Ministries online page. Welcome to our one top chat on our YouTube channel. I hope that is not my ninja. Now, there are some definitions of research that we would consider, no, as far as our study is concerned. So we have the definition of research.
And you could Google this. So one way of defining is a method, no? So we define research as a method of acquiring knowledge. So there must be an acquisition of knowledge. Through research, we could acquire knowledge. So, or something that would answer our problem or solutions to our current situation. So, in effect, research is an acquisition of knowledge. And how will you do this? Based on the scientific method of inquiry. So we should follow the scientific method of inquiry. There's this systematic method that we will be discussed throughout this course, this one one semester course in research in mathematics, majority of which is the fundamental of mathematics or research, or sometimes we call it in the graduate study methods of research or research seminar. So yan po yan. Yan. So that's based on scientific method of inquiry. So what's the purpose of which is to enrich the body of knowledge, to enrich the system of objective knowledge. So this we're not just referring to subjective but objective knowledge in the fields of natural and social sciences, where education is part of it. No? So we're part most of the time of social sciences. Natural and social sciences. So that's our definition, but we could get some other definitions based on the authors, and we could learn something on how they describe research. By the way, most of our senior high school are undergoing their senior research, no? So maganda yan, no? In preparation to their field of specialization. Perhaps if you're a STEM student, you may utilize this senior research to your undergraduate thesis in engineering, science. So these are necessary tools that you could use for your undergraduate thesis or research. So yan po. But nevertheless, we will continue. No? So this is more on the purpose of which our discussion is, of course, to produce, no, for as an output, perhaps a thesis proposal or a full blown thesis for this case. Okay, let's look at some of the authors. So I'll be uploading the material, not to mention. We have the definition of research. In some areas stated, a research is a systematic study. A systematic inquiry, rather. So there's an inquiry that is ongoing in terms of the acquisition of knowledge. Yeah, so an inquiry that uses disciplined methods. So these are methods in our discipline. No, for our case, we are clustered into natural and social sciences. Some may be clustered to engineering, and etc. No, depending on your discipline. These discipline methods to answer questions or solve problems. So that's the purposes of a research is to answer questions and solve or to become solutions to the problem. No? Another thing is that its goal of research are to develop. So there must be a development refine, refinement, and expand a body of knowledge. So we are actually in research, we are contributing to that body of knowledge. Now, if you're an undergraduate of education, you are contributing to the body of knowledge that is already deposited under the uh, education or social science discipline. So you were actually depositing to this body of knowledge. We're adding to this. Now we are expanding or refinement and expand, no? Develop, refine, and expand a body of knowledge. So that's one of the definition. This is based on the definition of Polit and Beck. And there are others that I just would like to read, no, for the sake, no. And of course, there are other who define research as carried out for specific questions to answer specific questions to solve a particular problem or issue. So same thought that we have here according to Palispis, cited by Almeida, and also by Burns and Grove. Research is to search or examine again and again and carefully. Research is diligent, systematic inquiry or investigation to validate, refine existing knowledge and generate new knowledge. So as we refine, develop, expand a body of knowledge, we are developing new bodies of knowledge or perhaps new sub-discipline out of the discipline na based on research methods, scientific methods. Another definition, research as a systematic investigation or something in order to answer question. I think this is similar. According to Sanchez, define research as a discovery. So there must be a discovery and exploration of the unknown. Yan. There must be an exploration of the unknown. Something that is unknown, after the research, it will be known. After the research, masasagot na. Ito'y makikilala na. No, dati hindi mo kilala o we don't have an idea, but after the research, the output of which will make things known or knowable. No, yun po yan. Discovery, it involves investigation of facts leading to discovery of new ideas and new methods. Ayan. So, again, this body of this research would contribute to the body of knowledge and will create another or new discipline, perhaps, or new methods. The end result is the discovery of truth. To arrive at such, the researcher uses method. No? These are scientific methods. These are systematic methods that we are utilizing in our research. Another definition that I would like to quote here. So, as we involve on this educative process, it's an academic understanding. No? Research is an academic understanding. Okay, saglit na mga kapatid, I'll be coming back.
kapatid? Musta kayo dyan? AJ, so just view this, teka, naka ano pa? Some clients outside. Ayan. Yan, husky pa rin boses ko, hindi ko alam. Tingin ko malakas pa rin itong volume. Nevertheless, okay, so we define as an academic understanding as we continue defining research across disciplines. So it could be across interdisciplinary, no? It involves scholarly process, no? Of search and research. So there are other case things here. It involves investigation, experimentation, observation, of course, investigation. There must be an investigative process and experimentation. Yan, on the subject to any of the following purpose: to discover new knowledge. The purpose is for us to have new knowledge and paradigm or framework. Yan. Improve standard, no? So another case is this is good aspect of research, to improve the existing standards of discipline and protocols. All right. And to test. So this is important aspect of a research is to test. So you need to test and apply theories, no? So yung theories of the past could be tested by a research. Ayan. To test and apply theories. Saglit na mga kapatid. Ako. Acknowledging Junilin 09, Team M. Yan po, salamat sa inyo, Sir. Madam po ba kayo? Because my tita, because of my salamat po, ma'am. Perhaps your ma'am Junilin 09 na Team M Estrada. Salamat po sa pagpunta dito where we are actually I'm lecturing about the fundamentals of research. We're now on its definition. This is an undergraduate course in for education, major in mathematics. So welcome, Junilin. Thank you for dropping by. Yan po. Salamat po sa inyo. Yan. So yan, so that's the purpose, is to test and apply theories, no? So we go to research, so because there are theories that could be applied on different contexts. Theories that have been applied in one situation, is it still okay, appropriate, or applicable to other contexts and situation, or perhaps circumstance? So nag-iiba-iba yung mga variables concerned, no? Or perhaps the sampling and the population. Yan yung kagandahan ng research, no? Na pwede natin siyang dalhin sa ibang context o sa ibang sample size or population, no? And we could improve these protocols and test and apply theories. So yun po yung mahalaga dito. Or laws in professional theories and laws, of course the existing laws in professional practice. particularly this as an educator, no? So it's very important. This according to De Belen, I think on his dissertation in 2015. Guys, sandali lang, merong client ha. Bumalik ako, I have client downstairs. Okay, so the final curriculum. Nevertheless, we will continue. So these are some of the definitions of research. So perhaps the purpose of research is to produce new knowledge out of the current discipline, perhaps to improve or to have a new paradigm, improve the standards and protocols, or perhaps may test and apply the theories and the laws as far as professional practice is concerned. As educator, there are prevailing educational theories, psychological theories that we may apply to our respective contexts, respective situation, and perhaps we could generate sub-disciplines out of this, no? So makapag-generate tayo ng new knowledge, and we could contribute to the discipline as far as education, social science, and other discipline is concerned, mga kapatid. Okay, so that's makita natin in research, systematic research on any topic, no? So we could have an example here, perhaps in arts. Okay, so perhaps a research about the skills that require dexterity and proficiency. So medyo nosebleed ako dito. Right? So that could be an example of a research area. Kaya ito yung pinagawa ko kay AJ, no? So magkakaroon ng research interest. Ano ba yung research interest mo? Out of a broad educational research, I mentioned few. You could dig in with teaching math, learning math, what are the best practices. No? So to mention a few, you could go to my lecture notes number 2 about that and other things. No? So that we could apply to our respective discipline. No? So here for arts, perhaps in natural science, perhaps empirical inquiry of natural phenomena. That would include biological life. No? So for biology students, no? So this could be perhaps a fauna or flora of a particular locality compared to the general characteristic of the fauna and flora of a larger community. So something like that. There could be an empirical inquiry. No? So it's just a natural phenomena of observation, so other things, etc. So yeah. And then we have also number 3 in terms of social science. Yan, social science, it involves the study of human behavior. No? So behavioral studies and societies. Social research because primary interest is human beings, of course. No? So human beings in the context of his and her life and environment. So yan po mga kapatid. So these are important aspects whether you apply it in arts, visual arts, performing arts, or for whatever arts may be, to its dexterity and proficiency. That could be an aspect. Or in natural science, empirical inquiry of some scientific phenomena such as biological life. And for social science, this is more of behavioral studies in the context of his or her environment as well. So that could be in terms of this aspect. There are more. No? We could deduce from this. Therefore, the research method is acquiring knowledge based on scientific method that was mentioned on our first definition. Scientific method of inquiry. It is known as a scientific problem solving. So that we are following the basic concept of problem solving process of or an empirical inquiry. No? This is also an organized body of knowledge humans have acquired. Our research then must always be of high quality to be able to produce knowledge applicable outside the study, settling with implications that can beyond the study participants. So the implication of the study may go beyond the discipline itself. It may be applied to other contexts or other disciplines. In addition, research should have implications and policy implementation. So the research could have an implication. Ito ay may mga apekto. Ito ay may mga implikasyon, no? Sa iba't ibang mga disiplina, lalo na sa kinabibilangan itong disiplina. At gayon din naman, lalo-lalo na for national policy decision making or implementation or for our governance, no? It must be research based, mga kapatid. Any decision, lalo na sa mga malakihang larger company or perhaps the government, national government, should be always based on research and utilizing scientific methods as part of the tool for decision making, mga kapatid. Right? So yan po ang ikita natin dyan. We don't have question because I don't have a student. But AJ, you just I will be uploading this lecture notes, the entire lecture notes, the soonest time, no? That these notes will be available. No? So, yeah. So, but this just our course text, no? Hindi ito yung kompleto, pero meron tayong kompletong text. Now, let's move to the importance of research. Mahalaga yung makita natin yung kahalagahan ng research. So the importance of research. First, we define it, and then we look into the importance of research. So there are some, and we need to recognize this importance. Kasi sometimes it would be our motivation for further research, kapatid. Undergraduate research, exposure to this research process will enable you to be motivated to undergo graduate researches as well, including your master's thesis or your doctorate dissertation. Perhaps dapat ang estudyante maging aware dito. Perhaps that's also the advantage of K to 12, where there are research-based courses even in the senior high school, senior level, so that they may have an idea on this scientific inquiry, investigation, and to undertake this research process. And this would have an impact or an implication to the study itself, contributing to the body of knowledge, some new paradigms, or perhaps a new knowledge per se. So, yan yung makikita natin dyan. Nakahalagahan itong bagong curriculum natin. So, research-based. Because when we were in high school, before, that's on the old curriculum, just grade 1 to 10. Hindi pa nga required ang K. So, hindi gaanong na-emphasize. Though there are, most of the science high school are already into research project, even in their fourth year, but most have a little emphasis perhaps, I would say. No, hindi pa talaga na-emphasize. Nagkaroon lang ng emphasis talaga nung nagkaroon na tayo ng 2 additional years, that's a senior high school, wherein they could have research project development as well. So depending on the strand that they are into. Alright, so these are the importance, no? Finding reasons why research important seems like a no-brainer. So parang hindi nag-iisip, no? Pero may kahalagahan even in for people, many people avoid getting involved in research. No? They are actually don't want to participate in the research process. Not as a researcher and not also a respondent to the research instrument. Palaging may ganitong avoidance ang ilan. So the lazy student is probably thinking, oh no, not again. While this interest academic could just be doing it more to secure job, tenure, and promotion. So yung iba, not really for the research per se, but for some other ulterior motives as well. Yet, for those who have like to learn, whether they are members of the learning institution, academic institution or not, doing research is not just an imperative, it's a need. So, it's a need, even more especially for the colleges and universities. We need to produce, we need to research, to undergo a research. So, yun yung makikita natin dyan. May kasabihan nga, no, as part of the portfolio, faculty portfolio, that we need to have a study or research. Unless we would like to perish. Yan po. Okay, number one, the importance that we could incorporate here is that research is a tool. The importance of research as a tool for building knowledge. So it's a tool in itself for building knowledge and facilitating learning. To facilitate learning as far as the discipline is concerned, we need to have a research. And the development of the discipline or knowledge is basically founded on research itself. Kung walang nag-research, halimbawa, nag-develop ng ibang mga tools, ibang mga new knowledge based on the existing one, wala nag-research niyan, we will left perhaps the mathematics of a century ago is still the one that we are using. Development as far as some modern tools or techniques. So, meron pa rin mga gagamit ng mga traditional long method. Yet, there are ways that we could get rid of the long method and make use of simulation softwares perhaps. So, these are developments in the body of knowledge because of research. So, these are tools for building knowledge. And this is continuing. So, nagpapatuloy ito even across discipline. There are discoveries that are still that are still viable for researchers. So, in different or across disciplines. Acknowledging Pasolem. Welcome, Pasolem. Wala akong estudyante ngayon. Thank you for dropping by. See you later on our prayer gathering. Para ako nagmo-monologue, but nevertheless. Alright, that's one of the importance. No, research is required not just for students and academics, but for all professionals. In fact, even in the engineering profession, we need constant research as far as best practices is concerned. How will you know that it is the best practice of the industry? Do some research. Yun po yan. Research in scientific method and inquiry, we will know, determine the best practice across discipline. Perhaps in my case, as an electronics engineer, there are best practices within our discipline, and this is based on research. Kaya karamihan ng mga companies, even in engineering firms, meron silang R&D. And perhaps one of the highly paid engineers of the firm are the R&D engineers. Sometimes these firms are actually sending their employees to undergo graduate and postgraduate studies, their MS and their PhD, so that when they return in service, they will apply this body of knowledge to their own company. Yan po. Sometimes this is what we call the academic industry linkages na tinatawag. So yung company sending out their employees, their highly proficient employees, doing some research and applying this body of knowledge to their own context or situation. Yung mga prototypes na yan, yung mga iba't ibang mga ways or means that the system, engineering systems and product could be at par with the latest innovations is concerned. And po, so that's the importance of it's a tool, no? So, another case that doing research equips them with knowledge about the world and the skills to survive and improve their lives. So, yan, katulad ng bakuna, di ba? May issue ng bakuna. Pinormulate, no? There are series of research methodologies, no? Hindi agad-agad nung nagkaroon ng COVID-19 may bakuna agad, hindi ganoon. No, there must be laboratories. There must be appropriate methodologies that had been applied so that we could come up with the best, if not the better or good, no, etc. Ayan, malalakas yung R&D ng mga yan, mga research and development. They have done testings, trials, until such time that clinical trials had been accepted in the considerable level so that they may be applied even to the public for public consumption. So knowledge basically pertains to the facts based on objective insights and or study findings processed by human brain. Yan. So it can be acquired through various ways such as reading books. Kasi ang tingin nga natin sa research ay just Google, si Google. Hindi lang acquire knowledge on reading things, books, articles, online articles, listening to experts when they are actually into some seminars or talks, something like that, watching documentaries, or even investigative shows. So, hindi lang yung mga kung ano-anong palabas dyan. Conducting scientific experiments on the laboratory, importanteng laboratory, lalo na sa engineering and science discipline. So, our lab is very important for us to have some empirical investigations. Interacting with other people, among others. Of course, research, most especially if the research would impact a larger discipline or interdisciplinary research, something like that, or could affect a larger community, there must be collaboration. In fact, dito sa mga scientists and medical experts, no, that have a collaboration so that they may come up with the vaccine, with the best that they could produce. Yan. So that's it, no? So it's for building knowledge, no, and facilitating learning. So for us to continue on the development of knowledge, so the math a century ago may not be the same as us, no? So hindi na, marami nang nagbago. Anong nangyari? Though mathematics is a constant in its substance, though the presentation, the method of solution, and other parameters may be different from the previous century. So, yung isang lesson nito, wag nyo nang gagamitin yung notes ng mga lolo nyo nung college. Yun pa rin yung lecture teacher eh. Yung ugod-ugod na naming teacher, yun pa rin po yung teacher nyo nung kayo nag-college din. Diba? Nakakalungkot na ganun pa rin. Yung mismong lecture note ni Prof, yun pa rin ang kanyang ginagamit 30 years ago. Yun po nakakalungkot mga kapatid. No? Kasi hindi na nagkaroon ng investigative inquiry. No, wala nang ganong aspeto. Alright, but nevertheless, no, so maging as a person, we must not let go of research in our daily life, even in practical life. So we could make use of research, what could be the best practice, what would be the best arrangement of the appliances at home, based on your feelings or subjective thoughts. Also, comparing 2 or 3 different scenarios, and then coming up with some deviations based on observation and using the combination, acquiring the best benefits of 2 or 3 situations in one context, no? So yung pwede natin magamit yan because we are doing some research. So, though it's not formal research, it may still be considered as research because we found out some solutions to our problem. Of course, the purpose of research is to find solutions to our problem, whether that be in the disciplinary or whether that be in practicality or in other things as well. Ayan po mga kapatid. Saglit lang mga kapatid, mayroon lang akong bibisitahin. No? Ano lang ako. Okay, so we still have time Okay, so number two is that it means to understand various issues and increase public awareness. No? So for some public concerns, no, this is better than fake news. This is much better than fake news. If you could have some research involved in research, means to understand various issues and increase public awareness. So ginagamit din ng research, no, as far as its importance, no, to understand various issues. Research what it could be the best medicine for such a disease, or perhaps for COVID. No, there are studies, though we may not have conclusion yet. No, according to experts, the best vaccine is the available vaccine in your locality. Yan po. However, ayan, no? So it could be used also as a means to understand various issues through research, no? That we may have this research-oriented mindset or thinking as far as issues is concerned. Hindi galing sa haka-haka, political opinion, or subjective sources. No? Because research is an objective inquiry. It's an objective process where we are seeking solutions from our problem, seeking answers to our questions. And of course, in a larger scale, its application is to increase public awareness. And television shows and movies fused with research both on the part of the writer and the actors. Yan, ano ba yung arte ng isang artista na nakakakiliti at nakakapagpahiyaw sa isang Pinoy? Diba? Hindi lang basta umaarte yan eh. May mga research na yan, guys. Ganun yung ginagamit yung research. Ano bang arte ng artista ang nakakapagpakiliti sa mga manonood na Pinoy? Because of that, no? True, there are hosts who rely on their researchers, there are also those who exert effort to do their own research. No? So may mga ganon. No? In terms of public awareness, of course, there are ways or there are steps that we could consider. We could get info that hard researches. Get information that hard. Sometimes yung kasi mga research may mga na-miss pang information. Miss something, perhaps a limitation on their instrument. Another is build a good rapport. With the interviewee. Ayan, syempre, kasi and then also conduct a good interview in the process. So, most especially for those qualitative research. Ayan. So, that's for the example of television shows, no? As far. So, these are just examples, no, that are part of your notes. For instance, no, yun nga, yung mga cases, Oprah Winfrey would have not achieved remarkable success as a news anchor and television show host had she excused doing her own research about certain topics and public figures. You see? So, ano ba yung mga topics na nakakakiliti sa mga tao? Yan. Alam yan, may advantage ka na that people could hear you because your topic are of their interest and could be done by research. Yan. So, according to entrepreneur and lifestyle coach Paul Bronson in the interview with emotional intelligence expert and author Justin, Oprah spent disproportionate amount of her time gathering information from communities of people outside of her core. So different from his context, such as different age group, hindi lang yung age group niya, social classes, ethnicities, iba't ibang mga lahi, educational levels, different careers. So all sorts, ano ba yung gusto nila, ano ba yung nais nila, ano ba yung interest nila. And then shares that information with her community. Of course, in the context of Oprah, perhaps his employees and his company, there could be some shared vision out of this information she gathered from outside her context, and that is it. The success of Oprah. And this kind of effort shows the necessity of role of research in helping others and in raising social consciousness. Acknowledging my wife. Husky pa rin, honey, yung boses ko, no? Salamat. Yan, di ko marinig. Naka-off yung speaker ko. Ang dali lang mga kapatid. May re-request lang ako for thumbs up kasi dapat ilapag yung channel natin doon. Yan, saglit na mga kapatid. Saglit lang po mga kapatid. I'm just requesting a thumbs up read on our channel. Ayan. So, di ko sure kung mapagbibigyan ko. Nevertheless, we continue. So, that's the purpose, no? So, another importance of research is to means to understand various issues, and then of course a tool for building knowledge and facilitating the learning. That's another case. Now, thirdly is to aid in business success. So, it's also important for a successful business to base their study on a research process. Now, this is important also. An aid to business success. Ayan. So, there are business research, marketing research that would aid a business success. So, mahalaga yan, yung ginagamit yung research, no, for their business success. So, research benefits success, definitely, as far as product or services is concerned. So, many successful companies, such as those producing consumer goods, no? So those on the consumer side and mass market items. Ano bang size ng itlog ang nabibili? Ano bang tilapia ang nabibili? Ano bang klase ng hiwa ng manok ang nabibili? May ganun, ha? Ano bang hiwa ng karne ang madalas mabili? Something like that. There are research that are na makikita natin na ginagamit ang mga research na ito for their productivity as far as business is concerned. So, invest in research and development. That's why most of these companies, these large companies, has their R&D department. Different business industries with science and engineering process like agriculture. What could be sa agriculture, yung yielding naman, no? Yung maximum yield for a particular minimum combinations. Halimbawa, binhi ng palay. Anong kombinasyon ng mga binhi ng palay ang magpuproduce ng malaking production? No? Magkakaroon ng mga experimental research dyan. Experimental research on what will be the maximum yield. And of course, there are some mathematical computations there. No? Yung linear programming is used, no, for them to compute or at least to estimate the maximum gain, or if you will be using a particular mix up of rice or mix up of certain parts of the process so that it will produce the optimum number of production as far as perhaps, no, yung pinakamalakas na production. So lahat ng yan ay utilizing research. Ayan po. So, mahalaga to. An aid to business success. And then, fourthly, the way to prove lies and to support the truth. Ayan. Of course, sa research, mapapatunayan ang kasinungalingan at ang katotohanan. Research. A way to prove lies, mga kasinungalingan, and to support truth, katotohanan. Ito, mga medieval, mga old folklore. Ito, haka-haka. Kapag mabigat, lahat ng mabigat na bagay lulubog sa tubig. Okay? Halimbawa, may mabigat na, halimbawa, isang bara ng ginto. Tinubog sa tubig, lubog. Pero naman isang kilong ginto, yung bara ng ginto, hindi lang siguro isang kilo yan. Kasi siguro pagpalagay natin 10 kilos of gold, dinagay sa tubig, lumubog. Okay. Lahat ng mabigat, lulubog sa tubig. Pero meron ka namang bulak. Halimbawa ay isang bungkos ng bulak na kasing bigat ng ginto. So malaki 'yon, imagine, no? Sigurado ba 'to lulubog o lilitaw? No? Lulubog o lilitaw. Of course, no, if you will just base on observation, mere observation, ang mabibigat lulubog, as we observe on one item, sabi mo na dapat lumubog yung isang bungkus ng bulak. Pero hindi yun ang nangyari. Lumutang-lutang yung bulak. Kaya, nothing wrong with the assumption. If you don't have a scientific inquiry that there is this intrinsic property for our material that is somewhat universal, whether it will float or sink on the water, that's the concept of density. If you don't know that, based on scientific investigation, you will believe on the truth that all that are heavy will sink on the water or sea. Kung lahat lulubog, paano yung mga barko? Of course, this is a principle of density. The density of water is 1 gram per cubic centimeter. And if you are higher than that, basically, you will be sinking on the sea. Yan. Kung mas masiksik ka, ibig sabihin, yung density, yung kasiksikan ng isang materyales, density. Kung mas masiksik ka kaysa tubig, meaning greater than 1 gram per cubic centimeter, you will sink on the sea. That's for sure. But of course, if your material, even though heavy, but the density is not or even less 1 grams per cubic centimeter, it will float. So yun yung prinsipyo ng mga modern day ships, no? Yung concept na yan, in-apply dyan, no? Kasi kino-construct ang isang barko o isang sea vessel such that its density will be less than 1. Yan po. Yan ang concept. Kasi kung hindi less than 1, lulubog yan. Lulubog yan. Kung yan, halimbawa, nabutasan, magiging much denser yan. But they will construct a material such that the density will be less of the water and it will float on the sea. Okay? Refuting the lies of the past and supporting for the truth. And that is based on research, mga kapatid. Ayan, meron pang mga lies na kapag ikaw daw ay nabakunahan, kapag ikaw ay nabakunahan, ay magkakaroon ka ng microchip sa katawan. Ito ay isang kalokohan. Nabakunahan at in-inspection ko yung bayal. Dok, baka may microchip to Of course, mag-short circuit yun pag tinubig mo sa bayal. Doon mismo sa bakuna, sa liquid doon na yun. So it cannot be sustained there. So it's a lie. Ayan. Of course, research, investigation is necessary. Okay? So a way to prove lies and to support the truth. So this is a very important of a research process. Ayan po. Hindi ko alam kung nakita ni Ma'am Tito. Hindi ko alam kung madadaanan yung ating channel. But okay lang kung ilapag na lang niya for ayan, masyado ng ano. Okay. Tayo mga kapatid. So that's one way, no? Another way, so there are other examples here that we may read on your notes. Another is that means to find, gauge, and seize opportunities. Research is a mean for a person like us, you and me, to find, gauge, and seize opportunities. Yan. O, di ba? So, you could have a research, no? To find out which is your edge, advantage, o yung niche na tinatawag. Oh, acknowledging Ma'am Sweet. Salamat, Ma'am Sweet. Salamat po. Ano po kasing speaker ko, hindi ko po na... Thank you, Ma'am Sweet. Salamat po. Really appreciate your time dropping by. Salamat po. Lecture. I'm now on lecturing on research in mathematics. Medyo boring lang po. And welcome, Ma'am Sweet. Salamat po. Salamat po sa pag-thumbs-up grade sa ating live. This is an online class of LD Woosley Bethany Colleges in Makati. I'm conducting an online class right now in research in mathematics. Thank you, Ma'am Sweet. Salamat po. Thank you, Ma'am Sweet, sa pagbisita sa ating bahay. Yan. Wala po, hindi ko kayo mababalikan. Thank you, Ma'am Sweet. Salamat po. Yan, salamat po. Ayan, some are known to me, no? Ayan. Thank you, Ma'am Sweet and Team Sweet sa... Okay, o yun. Salamat. At Na-thumbs up rate tayo ni Team Sweet. Alright. So let's continue, no? So research is used to find, no, yung para magkaroon tayo ng opportunity. Halimbawa yung niche na tinatawag, no, yung niche sa market. Ito yung kung saan, ano ba yung kakaiba sa'yo na hahanapin ng tao, yung niche. So you have your market niche. Ayan, market niche. Perhaps market niche may be implied also services or product, no? Hindi lang ito product but also services. Yan, services na makikita natin, no? So you find out for a way that you are of advantage to others because so that market could be, you will have a larger slice of the market. So yan po ang ano natin diyan, makikita natin diyan. So seize opportunities, gauge. Of course, you could gauge whether it's a fair battleground for your part. Kaya mo ba makipagkompetensya? You will do some research. In our profession, perhaps looking for a job, you'll do some research. Sino-sino ba yung mga nag-a-apply din na katulad mo? Ano ba yung mga qualifications nila? Ano ba yung mga communication skills nila? Ano ba yung mga 21st century skills nila na meron ka o wala ka? Kapag tingin mo, dinado ka, ba't ka mag-a-apply ka? So that could be a way to gauge, no? By simply having some research inquiry. No? Perhaps if you are in the minimum qualification of certain employment requirement or something like that, you could gauge, no? Or you could find opportunities just like my as a freelance consultant. As a freelance consultant, I was able to find my niche in smaller market. No? I won't engage in bigger projects because there are really high caliber engineers that are working on that. No? But I would go for middle and small projects where I could earn decently. No? So yan po. So that, research, mga kapatid. No? Means to find, you could find opportunities. You could gauge whether that's a good playing ground for you, perhaps as far as your profession, or perhaps new market is concerned, and to seize the opportunity if you, in fact, you have a very competitive niche on that particular aspect of the market, then go for it. Yan po yan, mga kapatid. So that's a good advantage. Research helps people nurture their potential and achieve goals through various opportunities. This can be a form of securing employment. Yan, katulad na banggit natin. Ako nung college, since wala pang pre-tertiary level education nung time ko, kasi panahon pa yan, tatak Duterte yan actually, no? So, even though I'm a graduate of a state college or state university, there are other expenses, no? Most special the projects, the books, etc. and etc. No? So I need to look for ways that I could earn something without working at all. How to do that? Apply scholarships. So this is a top secret. EJ, you listen. I have at least 3 scholarships when I'm still in my undergraduate or bachelor's level. First is the academic scholarship, as this is actually offered by the university for deserving student who have this certain average. You could be a university scholar or college scholar, or sometimes we call it a dean's lister or a president's list. But of course, it has limitation because that's only for tuition and fees and some miscellaneous expenses and a very small stipend. So I really need to look for other scholarships. So palagi kong tinitingnan yung nakapost dun sa OSPA, Office of Scholarship and Financial. So, pag na-apply agad ako, if I think I'm qualified, I go for it. And here you go. No? So, I was qualified with one scholarship, that is the Filipino Association Northern Marianas, where I have a scholarship, I think, for the first 4-year course, 4 years of my engineering program, and then Ninoy Aquino Foundation. So, during that time, that Cory is still the CEO of that foundation, I was able to enjoy the scholarship for 5 years for my entire curricular program as the undergrad for engineering. And also on my 5th year, because I need to acquire more funds for my thesis, I was able to pass the NECP Nippon Electrical Company scholarship in UP Diliman. So all in all, I have this couple of scholarships, and that is to seize opportunity. It's part of my research kasi other students don't want to engage on this. No? So yan. That's the problem there. No? Ayan. Ay, yung nakalimutan ko pala sabihin kay Team Sweet, hindi po preaching to. Ito po ay math class. No? Anyway, salamat na din Team Sweet sa pagbisita. Ayan po. So again, research could be used. No? So this is a very practical advantage of using research-based knowledge, where you could find, gauge, seize opportunities, or even your market niche as well. So there are other explanations on the notes that I may not. In number 6, and this is for educators like us, important aspect of research, a seed. Research is a seed to love, reading, writing, analyzing, and sharing valuable information. Yan. So, research could be a basis or a seed, a foundation. No, research-based foundation or research-based body of knowledge could be a foundation for the love of reading. We will encourage people to read. If you would like to engage in research, you need to read and read and read. Not just conduct research without reading articles or research journals, or perhaps other literature that are related to your research. You need to read. Yan din minsan ang problema ko. But nevertheless, it's a concern for all of us. And also writing. You need to write what you are about to research. Or if you're conducting a research, you need to express that in terms of verbalization, how you verbalize these things. And of course, analysis is there. You need to analyze the data, the information that you gather, so that it will be meaningful and it will be in consonance to your research objectives. And then, eventually, as you already have conducted this research project, you could share valuable information. That's the noblest importance of research. That every student, or I would say every student and academician just like us would embark with. Ayan po. So mag-overtime ako ng konti kasi medyo may mga technical problem tayo kanina, no? So ayan po. Then of course, on another aspect, that research could be used for our nourishment, nourishment and exercise of the mind. So research, nourishment, and exercise of the mind. Because in research, there are new bodies of information or knowledge that you could have a sub-discipline out of the discipline, a new concept, perhaps a new paradigm that could be produced out of the research. So could serve as nourishment of the mind. Kapatid. Okay, so yan po. Okay. Okay, so far hanggang dito tayo, no? So, I will stop on this and we will continue. Next week, I'll be continuing, though I will put this into your readings so you read about the material and we could have just exchanged our thoughts about this. So, yun talaga yung purpose ko. Ayoko, medyo awkward talaga ako mag-monologue. Nagkakanda sira yung hardware sa software natin. So, nevertheless, and we will continue. No? So, our next topic here is about the purpose of research. We'll have its purposes according to the research of Almeida. Then, of course, the goals of research. So, we could differentiate the goals from the purpose. So, perhaps AJ would be participating on this already, the student that we have here in MAT181. We could have the characteristic of research. Yan, characteristic of research. The use of research. So these are the topics that we could embark. Yes, use of research. Then lastly, the ethical guidelines. Very important. Ethical guidelines in research. Okay, so these are our topic of discussion. I'll be uploading this material very soon to your classroom, perhaps under week number 3, and then we will have some discussions together with some of your compilations of your researches, undergraduate, graduate, then you have capstone project and some action research. And then, of course, you should take note of their synopsis. That could be a basis of looking for your research interests. That's it. So far, then we will have some assessment here. And then afterward, there are some tasks. And then we will go to the classification or types of research. I thank you guys for our YouTube friends who dropped by a while ago, courtesy of Ma'am Sweet. Thank you, Ma'am Sweet. Also, Don Coolies a while ago who dropped by also on our premiere, and now on its live, it's Team Sweet CB. Salamat great sa buong Team Sweet. At ganun din naman sa ating live stream kanina. Okay? So we thank the Lord for this. I hope AJ, you will be available by next week for this discussion. So I'll be providing the notes, the readings for you. So you just need to be ready for some inquiries or perhaps some discussions on some issues pertaining to these topics. Okay? Okay, so far, so we thank the Lord for this. Nevertheless, even though there are really some hardware troubles that I'm experiencing as well as software, so by God's grace, we're able to still conduct this lecture. Okay, so let's pray. Father in heaven, we thank you for this day. Thank you for this opportunity that we could look into some essentials of research, its definition, its importance, Lord, that we see. And then we will have some discussion also in the purposes and goals, as well as characteristics, and also the ethical standards that we'll be applying here. We thank you, Lord, for this opportunity, even for our live stream friends. who drop by and support our live streaming. And we thank you for these people who are also supporting us. I pray also for AJ, for his ministry, that you will guide him and that you may continue uh, to be gracious to him, even to his ministry and the church. And so that we may have some interaction next week, Lord willing. We thank you for this day. Glorify your name, Lord, even as we have some, uh, as I have some lectures on these aspects of research. This is our prayer in Christ's name. Amen. Okay? Salamat. At muli, magkikita tayo for next week. So this is just a weekly lecture. Though most of the time, the students will have their asynchronous activity. So 1.5 hours is intended for synchronous lecture time. Then activity time will be given to the rest of the week for the students. Okay? So again, God bless us all and see you next time.